The other day, Granny and I were planning our Thanksgiving for this year. You know, who will make what and who will bring what and who needs to do this and who needs to take care of that. While we were talking about it, I got to thinking about her Thanksgivings when she was growing up. Now with kids of my own, it's funny how you put your life in different. So I think of Thanksgiving when I was a child, then Thanksgiving when my children were children, you know, little children, how Thanksgiving was different then than how it is today. Now, today, my children are grown. Pap's no longer with us. You know, it's just in your own, and I'm the one that hosts Thanksgiving these days. So all those things change over the course of your lifetime. So I got to thinking about Granny's, and I asked her what Thanksgiving was like when she was a girl. So this is what she told me. She said, talking about her mother, Granny Gazzy, she said, oh, she'd cook a big meal with a big turkey. She was used to cooking for a crowd. Daddy would help her in the kitchen. He kept the fire going in the stove because in those days, of course, they were cooking on a wood cook stove instead of an electric stove or a gas stove like we have today. My sisters Faye and Genevieve would help her cook. I never did. I was always off doing something else. Grandpa couldn't eat cornbread, so for every meal, Mama fixed biscuits and cornbread so that he could eat the biscuits. She had those big tin or metal canisters. She'd buy 50 pounds of flour and 50 pounds of cornmeal at a time, and she kept it in those canisters. The flour and cornmeal came in cotton sacks. She always canned peaches, so there'd be peaches and cake on the table. Mother made the best pumpkin pies, but she didn't even use a recipe. She just throwed it together and made a pie. She made her own pie crust, too. We'd have fried sweet potatoes and stewed orange taters. We'd drink Kool-Aid tea or coffee. All Mama's kids would come if they could, even the ones that were already married and gone. So that was Granny's memories of Thanksgiving when she was a child. Granny, it was a family of 11, 9 who lived to adulthood, and Granny was the third from the youngest. So some of her older siblings were already married and gone, probably by the time Granny was forming really, important memories, those memories of Thanksgiving and such as that. Along with the Thanksgiving tradition of food in Appalachia, there's a couple of other ones that are pretty common. One of them is hunting. A lot of people will go hunting on Thanksgiving Day, even people that don't normally hunt. Maybe they don't even hunt the rest of the year, but on that day they find a way to go into the woods. A lot of times you'll hear older people talk about that they remember when the men and the boys, they'd all go off hunting while the women stayed at home making all those delicious dishes for them to enjoy when they got back. It's more of, I guess, a fellowship kind of thing, or maybe a tradition that they're just holding on to because they're someone in their family always went hunting on Thanksgiving, so they do it too. But that's a pretty common one. Another one, it's not really on Thanksgiving Day and not really as common today, but in days gone by, that time of the year during Thanksgiving, if it was cold enough, people might start butchering their hogs, killing hogs, hog killing day, you'll hear people say. So that was a time of the year they might think about starting to slaughter their hogs and put up meat for the winter, salt their meat or sugar cure it or whatever and put it in the smokehouse, or maybe they canned sausage or backbone and ribs. But that was the time of the year that people started looking forward to doing that, to taking care of their hogs before real winter got there. I've always found it interesting that thinking about the tradition of food, how people become known for certain dishes that they make. So in our family, like, we want Granny to make her green beans because she makes the best green beans. She makes really good pumpkin pies too, so she always makes our pumpkin pies. She said Gazzy didn't have a recipe, but somebody taught Granny to make them. I always love her pumpkin pie, and a roll and a piece of turkey is like what I like for an afternoon snack after our Thanksgiving dinner. Anyway, but my sister-in-law Kim, she's known for her coconut cake. She always brings coconut cake. And my husband Matt, even though he says he don't like coconut, I see him eating that cake, so that's how good it is. She makes really good coconut cake. Miss Cindy, she makes great soups, and she doesn't have a recipe either. She just makes them up. And she makes this wonderful bread. She just come up with the recipe all on her own, just fiddled around with it till she got it the way she liked it, and use a bread machine, so it makes it really easy. So that's something she's known for, and we use that recipe all through the year, not just at Thanksgiving. Papa Tony, I love to eat his hush puppies and fish. He makes the best hush puppies of anybody, any restaurant, any person, anybody's I've ever eaten. His is the best. I don't know what he does, but his are just hands down the best hush puppies. Nana, his wife, she makes great sausage balls. I look forward to eating sausage balls during Christmas at her house all year long because I know that she'll make them and I know how good they'll be. Pap, nobody could make a pan of fried taters like Pap. He just had the patience and the skill. I can't never get my fried taters to taste like his. I was always excited when I stopped by his and Granny's after work or something, and I always look on the stove to see what they've had. And if there's a pan of fried taters, leftovers, I'd just sit in and eat them all. He just made the best fried taters of anybody. So what am I known for? Well, I make rolls. These rolls that people call Tipper's rolls are really oatmeal rolls, and it's not my recipe at all. But I've been making them for a long time, so that's what I'm known for. People in our family say it wouldn't be Christmas or Thanksgiving without Tipper's rolls. That's what they get excited about for me to bring. I also make pralines, a type of candy, and the Presleys, I usually take that to the Presleys at Christmas, and they all say it wouldn't be Christmas without Tipper's pralines. So people, even me, over the years, you become known for those signature dishes that you make that everybody loves and everybody looks forward to eating, whether it's during the holidays or maybe at a potluck or a church social or a dinner on the ground, something like that. But today I'm going to show you how to make those rolls. So if you need a type of bread for your Thanksgiving this year, maybe you'll try out Tipper's rolls. The rolls I'm going to show you how to make today are the rolls that we have at every Thanksgiving, every Christmas. I don't really make them much during the year. I should though, but they're those special rolls that everyone looks forward to. And I actually found the recipe when Matt and I were first married in a copy of Southern Living magazine, and it's credited to Carol Barclay from Portland, Texas. So I don't know if Carol's still out there, but I'm sure glad that she shared her recipe with Southern Living and that I was able to find it, and then I've been able to make it all these years and make my family happy. So the first thing you do is you have 2 cups of water and you bring that to a boil, and you put 1 cup of oatmeal in there with 3 tablespoons of butter, and you let that cook. It's the quick kind of oatmeal, so you let that cook for 1 minute. It says to stir it constantly, but I don't stir it constantly. I just kind of stir it every few minutes, or every few seconds, and then once it's been boiling for a minute, you can just set it off to the side and let it cool. You have to let it cool. I think the recipe says to 110 degrees. Over the years, I think when I very first made it, I probably used a thermometer and tested the temperature, but after that, I just let it cool for just I don't know, till it's like warm. You still want it to be warm. Sometimes if it's cold outside, like at Christmas, or sometimes on Thanksgiving, I take it outside and set it on the back deck to make it hurry and cool. You could also put it in the refrigerator, I guess, if you wanted to do that. And the next thing is you take 2 packets of yeast, and you're going to mix them with a tablespoon of sugar and a ½ cup of really warm water. If you don't, like I buy yeast in bulk. Actually, Miss Cindy buys it for me, but we get it in bulk. And so I figured out over the years that 1 packet of yeast is 2 1/4 teaspoon equals 1 packet. So you would do that twice for this recipe. And since I have a larger family, if everybody's eating, like at Christmas or Thanksgiving, larger than just the 4 of us normally eating, I double this recipe, and it works really well doubling it. The only thing is it's just a massive amount of dough, and you have to handle that. You have to have a large bowl to let it rise in, and a large bowl to mix it in. But other than that, it doubles really easily. So now I'm going to show you how to make the rest of it. So first I've got a large bowl, and I'm going to put the oatmeal that I've been letting cool in. And I'll leave the link below in the description to the actual recipe on Blind Pig and the Acorn, so you don't need to worry about writing all this down if you don't want to. So here's the yeast that I've let rise for the last 5 minutes. You can see how big it's got. So I'm going to pour that in. Then I've got 1/3 cup of brown sugar. I've got 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt. And then the recipe calls for 4 cups of all-purpose flour, plain flour, as Granny would say. So I just start with putting a little bit in it. I've found over the years that the recipe actually takes more than 4 cups of flour, at least for me it does. So then you get your mixer, and I'm going to mix this up, what's in there. You could try to use a stand mixer. I have one, but what happens is it's so much dough and flour that it ends up coming up into the top part of the mixer. So I think a hand mixer works better. And I've never been able to totally mix all the flour in there. We'll try a little bit more. And then the rest I just knead into the dough. I think that's about all I'm going to be able to get in. You can add some more and stir it with a wooden spoon or a spoon. See how that does. Let me put these right there. But in the end, most of the rest of the flour, you just end up having to knead it in. And you do need to knead the dough before you set it to rise. Back, losing part of it. So you'll probably be way neater than I am. I end up getting messy either way I do it, but I'll try to knead a little bit inside the bowl here just to try to get it into a somewhat of a ball. Let the dough come together. So that's pretty much, I think there's maybe not even a fourth of a cup of the 4 cups that it calls for left, and you can see it's still very sticky. It still needs some more dough, some more flour. So I like to spread out a towel and put a larger cutting board. So here's the rest of the 4 cups, which is not much. Put it out onto that. This is a good dough if you've never made bread before and you're intimidated by kneading. It's a good one to start with because I think it's almost foolproof. I mean, I've never had it not work out, even if I was in a hurry or maybe didn't do it exactly like I usually do. So I'm going to have to already have some more flour. I've got an extra cup or so right here. So to knead, you kind of bring it towards you and push it back if you've never kneaded before. Another good thing that you can do with this dough is if you didn't use it all for your rolls, or even if you did and you wanted to make some extra, it makes really good cinnamon rolls. The actual recipe from Southern Living it told how to make the rolls, and then it had a little sidebar where it told you how to use the same dough and make cinnamon rolls, and they're really good too. They're more of a heartier cinnamon roll because of the oatmeal that you put in them. So we're about to get there. You can see the dough's coming together. You can read different books and different recipes that kind of give you instructions on how to know when you've kneaded enough or when it's come together, but for me the best thing is experience. So after you've made it a couple of dozen times, then you just have a better feel for any kind of bread that needs to be kneaded. There's some sweet breads. I make a different bread at Christmas that's you have to knead it, but the dough is so soft. It's a totally different dough, so it's a kind of totally different feel, but the best way is just experience. So I think this is, you can see it's a lot better now. the kind of the texture, how it's just by itself. Some people say to poke your finger and see if it comes back, those kind of things. But so I added probably about another cup, at least 3/4 of a cup. And now I'm ready. I've got a bowl just greased with, you can use lard, oil, whatever, vegetable oil or olive oil, whatever you want. And I just put it in there and then turn it over. And then I'll cover it and I'll let it rise for an hour. If you let it rise longer, that's okay too, if it's like in between when you need to do something else. But you need to let it rise at least an hour. Okay, you can see the dough's been rising for about an hour. You can see I'm going to put out a little bit more flour on my board and just turn the whole thing out. Maybe sprinkle a little on top. And I failed to say, but when you let it rise, you need to have it in a warm place. I was lucky this morning. Matt had just made a big pot of chili, so my stove was kind of warm from that, so I just set it on there. Sometimes people will turn on their oven and then turn it off and then put it inside their oven, or the same with a microwave, or put it in a microwave with a cup of hot water, something like that. There's all different little tricks. If you research it, I'm sure you'll find them. But I usually just set mine on top of the stove, and if I'm making rolls, I'm usually making something else, so that's a pretty warm place in my house. So then it comes, it's really up to you, the time to actually make them the size you want. Sometimes I might make them larger, or for Thanksgiving I kind of make them on the smaller side just because there's so many of us. But either way you want to do it, you just take off a piece of dough and I turn it in on itself with my thumbs and pinch it together on the bottom, and then that's it. So, and then you put it on a greased cookie sheet, and then we're going to let it rise again for about 30 minutes, and then we bake them at 375 until they're golden brown. It takes about 20 minutes in my oven. You might want to keep track of them in yours if you make them, especially for the first time, just to make sure that it takes that long, or it might take a little longer or a little less. And I just kind of keep my flour beside me, that extra flour I was using before, and use it if I need to. So now I've got all the rolls made, and I'm going to cover them again in a warm place. I'll just put them back on top of the stove for about 30 minutes and let them rise one more time, and then I'm going to bake them at 375 until golden brown for about 20 minutes is what it takes usually. So I just got the rolls out of the oven. The best way to eat them is when they first come out of the oven with a slather of homemade butter. I've got a video on how to make homemade butter. I'll link to that in the card above. You can remember that below in the description I'll put the recipe for the rolls in case you want to make them. And if you do, I hope you enjoy them as much as my family does. And I hope that you'll drop back by often as I celebrate Appalachia.